that went against. We can start 2:30, right?
Yeah, we're starting already. All right, guys, thank you for being on time and ready. Started a little bit later, make sure everybody got in here, make sure we're ready to go. Again, thank you for being ready. Let's finish this out. So, couple of things before we finish. I made some changes to this because looking over it, I just didn't think it made sense. So what I did is I took out the culture part and just made it one big, how did this affect the United States? All right, we're contextualizing major events, how did this affect the United States, and then what is this thing? So these next two should go by much quicker because they are much more decisive and they are much more recent as far as class that we covered. So I'm going to give you about 2.5 minutes because, you know what, 2 minutes. This one's easy. What is immigration in the United States? That's it. Send it privately in the chat. What is immigration in the United States? Easy peasy, 2 minutes. I appreciate y'all being here afterwards. I know it would have been easy to just like flake, but thank you for being here. It will be beneficial, I promise. 2 minutes. Send it privately in chat. What is immigration in the US? What is it? What does that mean? What am I talking about? What is immigration? Name some groups. Tell me what they're doing. Why does it happen? Why does it happen in the US specifically? Think about all that stuff. Again, use your notes, use the internet, use your abacus. I don't know, whatever you need to use to find some information, but find some information. I don't think an abacus has information in it though. But I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they work. We were talking about this the other day. So maybe it does. If you move it the right way, it unlocks info. I don't know.
The Plymouth colony that was in, that only one in County.
That's Collins, yeah, that's Plymouth Colony. But remember, no, wait, Plymouth Colony's nonprofit. That's Jamestown. But we're talking about immigration. Immigration. So with immigration, guys, I want you to think 1800s. Think 1800s. 1800, like right up until pre-Civil War. Like think that time period. Why are people coming to the United States? It's already the United States. So I got some people talking about Europe being in trouble. I see the Irish. I see the Germans. I see the Chinese. Those are good. Economic opportunity. That's a great one. Oh, that was you, Devin. That's good. What else should be in there? What else should we see? Because there's other reasons that like economic opportunity is the biggest reason, right? It's like the giant cliff. But what else? Religious is good. Religious what? They're trying to get that or they're trying to get away from that? Get away from it, right? So they want religious freedom. That's a good one. Religious tolerance, right? They're looking for tolerance. That's a good key term there, tolerance. Great. What else do we see, guys? Remember, guys, easy participation. Personal freedoms, sure, I'll give you that. Like just individual liberty, right? They hear on the wire somewhere, right, that there's a country out there that just gives people liberty and they kind of like that idea. Maybe where they live isn't as, free. So I see some great responses and there's time has just run out of that. 2 minutes. So let's put these together, guys. Again, thank you for participating. Easiest participation you can do in the world, just putting in some of these responses, right? So if you're there, let me add in what everybody got. So immigration in the US, right? People migrating from. Did I leave anything out? Yes, no. How's that look? Does that look good? Can I get some yes, some thumbs up or something like that? Or do you think that there's something I should be putting also? Reminder, we're going to talk about specifics on how this affected the US and major events in a little bit. So how does that look? Good? Yes, no, maybe so. Yes, okay. So next one, how did this affect the United States? Now for this, think about how does the US change? If the US is one thing in 1789, 98, right before people start showing up from other places, and it changes, how does it change? What's happening? That's what I want you to think about. Think about things like workforces. Think about things like cities and populations. Think about cultures. I already got somebody putting in cultures. That's great. So think about specifics, guys. Remember, I know we spent time talking about it, right? I'm not going to give it away here, but I'll give you 3 minutes for this one because really think about cultures. We had whole slides about it. The only hint I'll give you is barbecue. Remember when I talk about barbecue and I talk about how it links to immigration? You're looking at me like you don't remember. You don't remember at all? We're going to talk about it a bit. Yes, I got some answers in there that are talking about barbecue. So remember all that stuff. Think about how this changes the US because yes, Jonas, that's right. Spaghetti is another good one. Remember we talked about it, right? The US changes a whole lot and part of why is because of those immigrants. It's a big, big deal. And again, thank you guys for being in here. Appreciate that. Ooh, Desiree, that's a solid one. Yes. Guys, I just updated Zoom and it's all weird. So I apologize if I'm being slow to respond. I'm trying to get to some of you guys and like fixing some of your responses. But so far, I like what I'm seeing. Again, about a minute and change left, guys. We're almost done. This is the home stretch. I know you've been through a lot today. I know hopefully that elective gap was enough for you guys to get ready for this. It's going to be really helpful. Hey, I'm going to tell you the truth. I had a plan where if only like 20 of you showed up, I was just going to give 20 of those people access to this document. Like straight up, I was gonna like totally lock the rest of you guys out of it, but y'all showed up, so I appreciate it. I didn't have to do that. Because I can do that. I can literally pick like one person and show them one thing. And I'm glad I didn't have to do that. I'm glad y'all showed up. Because I was totally gonna do that. In the back of my head, I was like, no one's. I mean, if y'all hadn't shown up and this was a group effort, I was only gonna let the people who had actually put the effort see it. So I thought you guys would show up, but in the back of my head, I was worried that you wouldn't. I'm glad you guys did, because now I don't have to do that. I don't have to look at through this and see who is here. Get 30 y'all leave for a while. Yeah, so no, but y'all are here, so we don't have to do that. And again, how much time is left? About 20 seconds. No, it's good that you guys all have access to it. I don't have to worry about that. We don't have to worry about, everybody's here helping. So what do I see in here that's good? I see a bunch in here that's really good, honestly. So one thing that I saw that I really liked is the use of the term melting pot, right? Like a melting pot culture, right? The culture's changing, right? Just in general, and that's really good. That's a really good point to make. I see foods being mentioned, right? Like the barbecue, right? If you remember, right? Barbecue is a product of German immigrants because they came over here. They started making butcher shops, and they were having like the poor cuts of meat were rotting, and they were trying to figure out how to save them. So they built smokehouses and they started making barbecue. Italian immigrants, some of the old school stuff they used to do, they added meat to it. So you get things like meat sauce, spaghetti and meat sauce, chicken parmesan. Those are all American items. They're made by Italians. That's why it's not Olive Garden, right? But it's an American Italian immigrant invention, right? It's like, so all that stuff. Chinese food, like if you've ever eaten like Panda Express or something on that level, that's more American than Chinese, right? It's the same type of thing where it's some of those old Chinese spices and ideas and recipes, but they're influenced with American. So all of that food stuff is really good. All of that culture stuff is really good. A lot of people were putting about how like urban centers were overpopulated. That's also really good, right? Because you're going to get off the boat and you're going to be stuck where you're at for the most part, especially if you're a broke mover. Slums, poor sanitation. So all of those poor things, I almost knocked over my table, sorry. All of those bad things happening in cities, you can tie to immigrants because especially Irish immigrants are showing up in huge numbers, right? So many numbers that the cities are having to change. One thing that I did not see, and I'm curious if you guys remember, all these people are moving. So all these people are moving here to the US and into these cities. Where in the city? What am I looking for? What do they do? What do these different immigrant groups do within the city? Do they all scatter? No, but do they scatter or do they all? So what does that mean? What does that form? They work in factories, yes, but my point is that so like, let's say I have 10 Irish families and I have 10 Chinese families and I have like 3 German families. Are they all going to live amongst themselves or are they all going to intermingle? What are the immigrant groups going to tend to do?
Live amongst themselves?
No, they live amongst themselves, right? Thank you, Jonathan. So they tend to group up, right? And that's where you get these neighborhoods. Like what's an example of one of these neighborhoods I'm talking about? Chinatown, Little Italy, right? Chinatown, Little Italy, Japantown. All of these little neighborhoods become, and this is going to sound weird, but they're like little immigrant neighborhoods, right? Where the immigrants all live there. That's the society that they build, and they build their own little mini culture around it, right? So just keep that part in mind because that's another thing you could talk about when you're talking about like how it's changing the US, right? Whole little sections of US cities will be like mini versions of other places. If you've ever been, if you've ever been to like a Chinatown or to a Little Italy, because they're all over the place. It's really different. Like you think you're in another, like in the California, like Chinatown, like where they filmed Rush Hour and stuff. It's like its own little city. It's crazy. And the decor's different. Like the street lights all change. It's super different. And so they're their own little pockets of culture within the American culture, right? You still get all those awesome things. So how did it affect the US? A million ways. Let me get to typing, right? So we've got diverse. The mafia is actually in theory, but the problem is that's later than what we're talking about, right? Yeah. That'd be like in the 1930s. Then you can bring that stuff up. But you're on the right track. The what? Some would say. It's like Goodfellas, right? And Goodfellas there. Yeah, the Italians mafia. That's Italy. The mafia is Italy. Italians. Wow, that was bad spelling. What does that mean? Oh, the spelling? I'm horrible at spelling. Me and Nunez had a bad spelling contest. I'm not sure who would win. Are you posting this on Google Classroom? Yes, Desiree. So this document, I'm going to post it as a PDF in Google Classroom so you guys can reference. So it'll be there for you to reference. You guys will be able to see this right after this class. That's what I'm doing. Cuisine. So we said clothing, we said cuisine, we said food. Let's talk about neighborhoods, right? Let me ask you guys a question, and I want your honest opinion. Can immigrant cultures influence even things like the language? Yes? How? Think about here. Think about San Antonio or Texas. How has, isn't there two types? Slang, sure, slang's good, language, right? How has there's Creole languages, that's also really good. So slang, languages, think about specifically in San Antonio or in Texas, how has, say, Hispanic language and culture messed with the English that we say here? What's a word that there is an English version of it, but nobody uses it because everybody uses the Anglicanized Spanish version. Gringo's good. What else? Gringo's good. What's another good one? Think about morning tacos. Oh, come on. This one's super. This is another food one. Gringo is good. I'm going to give you another.
Tortillas.
Tortillas is good, but think about another one. Every single restaurant has this. And it's a Spanish word, but it's describing. No, every restaurant has this, guys. I mean, you can go to a movie theater and order this. Queso. Cheese dip, right? That's a cheese dip. But everywhere on a menu, what's it called? Queso, right? Have you ever seen it named cheese dip on a menu? I doubt you have. And if you have, show me that menu because I don't believe you. But you know what I'm saying? That's just an example. So when I put society there, I mean little things like that, because that's immigrant culture reflecting the United States, right? Now, don't write a whole LEQ about queso and cheese dip and about how it's all because of Hispanic immigration. But do you get my point, my larger point on how when I say society, I mean every little thing?
Yeah, meat cheese. Yeah.
I think 54th Street, they have a cheese. Really? I'm going to have to look that up. That's crazy. So is there anything else that I should add in there? If you want me to get more specific, guys, now is the time to tell me because I will. Should I get more specific on that? How does this affect the US section? What about the bad stuff, right? I'm sorry, I didn't even include any of the bad stuff. Not quite that yet. Later on, it gets there. How's that? Is there anything I'm missing? I'll give you a quick minute to look it over to let me know because I tend to get carried away. Groups. Oh, Max, you're right there with it. So I'm glad you said that because I was going to have to bring it up later. So groups like the Know Nothing Party become a thing. So what is the Know Nothing Party? Somebody tell me. Xenophobia, yep, xenophobia. That's funny. Nativism is a thing. So xenophobia is when you hate somebody that's not from where you're from, right? That's from another country. That's kind of what nativism, right? Native born Americans only, right? The Know Nothing Party, Native American Party, right? So those are all really solid points. And I'm glad you guys pointed them out here because if not, I wouldn't have caught it till we were probably on to the next one because it slipped my mind. But do you see what I mean about how this is important? That's why I'm asking you guys. We're doing this together because it's been a long day. We've all been through it. So that's awesome. Is there anything else that is missing from this section? There's negative in there and there's positive, and you're going to need a little bit of everything to work it into an essay if this is indeed one of the topics. Because remember, your LEQ, they're going to ask you 2, but you only answer 1. So you get to pick one. I don't know which of these 2 it's going to be, but of these 3, it's going to be 2 of them. And you get to pick the one that you're most comfortable with, that you have the most background knowledge. And what I'm going to do after this, also, when I post this up, I'm going to link a bunch of the Heimler videos. Like, I'm going to link the playlists for all the units, because he covers he's caught up with us. So he just finished Unit 5 like yesterday. So in theory, and he does really good like unit summaries, so you don't have to watch 30 videos, right? You can watch like 4 videos. So in theory, he's caught up with all of us. So you should be able to watch from him if I bore you, or let's just face it, right? He's better than me, he's funnier than me. Stuff like that, right? So you can watch his stuff if it helps you as well. You can be in my class and then watch his stuff after over the evening or whatever. While you're playing games, have him on in the background blabbing away. Okay, so major events. When I say major events, what did immigration help start? Why is there immigration happening? Like, I'll give you a hint. Why are all the Irish people leaving Ireland? What's happening in the US? What are some major things that get done, built, accomplished, completed in the US because of immigration? And any other named events or items? You're going to need to explain that more, but you could be onto something. So again, about 2.5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and start. So look it up in your notes, look it up on the internet, wherever you got to find it. And then in 2.5 minutes, we will talk about major events or parts. I'm hoping we finish this soon. The sectionalism one is going to go much quicker. Each one will be about 2 minutes. So I've got, so far so good. Jay, Sabrina, those are solid. Max, that's solid. Alex, a little bit, if you're going to use that, you got to tell me how, because that's too general. Alex Garcia, yes, that's what it means, right? That workforce is there. So if you're a factory owner, you technically don't need to stress about where you're going to find employees, right? Because there's a bunch that keep getting off the boats every day. Joe, that's solid, yes. About another 1.5 minutes. What else we got? There's more than just that. Why are people leaving Europe? I've only got one good reason as to why people are leaving Europe. What else is happening in Europe overall? They're doing really well?
No, it's going down.
Going down, right? That's a good one. Put that one. Janessa, that's why people colonize. That's the feudalism thing. That's why people colonize. That's not quite why they immigrate. There's a little bit of that, but be careful if you're going to name feudalism about, because remember the dates, right? We're talking about 1800. By 1800, there's no more feudalism. That stuff's all gone. So be careful. I know I didn't put the dates on here, but I will add them on there. Michaela, potentially, but be careful. Like, if you're going to use that, be careful. You're going to need details. Economy in Europe, that's solid, Devin. Yes. So Europe's economy is in the turlet, as they say, turlet in the toilet during this time. Increase in population. That's population boom. Will I give you that? Yeah, maybe. Depending on how you use that one. Okay. So I'm going to start listing some things, right? So why they immigrated from their countries, yes. So 2 right off the bat, and one of them wasn't here till the very end, right? Thanks, Lauren, for that one. But yes, so economic turmoil, struggles in Europe. Financially, Europe is not doing great, not doing great. Political and religious persecution, right? You guys mentioned that as, hey, why are people leaving? But then you forgot it when we talked about major events. In Europe, that's what's happening, right? It's always happening in Europe. Land shortages, that's a super good one, coming in at the buzzer with that one. Yes, land shortages. which is possibly why there is so much economic struggle, right? Now let's get into some big ones, right? Irish potato famine. A lot of people got that one. Wow, I spelled that super wrong. Irish potato famine. There was another one in here that everybody put that was really good. The California gold rush, right? Do you remember which group of people specifically is really, really, no, but 49ers are just everybody like from America that went over there. Which group of immigrants is specifically the Chinese immigrants, right? They're the ones that hear about this and head over there. So Chinese immigrants, big effect. What else? Is there any major event that I left out as to why people are going, or just major issues, like major, something you can name, right? Something you can put a name on. Anything else? Give you a quick minute. No, Jay, that's not why people are immigrating to the U.S. I can't give you that one, sorry. So the reason I will say the Texas Revolution doesn't count is because that would be maybe a reason for people leaving the U.S., not a reason for people coming into the U.S. Jay, that's right, but that doesn't, this is immigration. It's not about like Southern resistance or anything like that. That would be for the next one for sectionalism. All right, guys. So I think we're solid on here for named things. Again, if you think of anything, let me know. Contextualization, this is a big one. So I'm going to give you 2 minutes. I don't think we need more than that because this is fairly straightforward, right? Tell me about what's going on pre-1800 in the U.S. There's only, everybody's an immigrant, right? So where were those immigrants from? There's only one group really moving to these colonies during that time. What is it? Send it to me privately. I'll give you 2 minutes, and then we'll move on to the last one. 2 minutes. What do we got? Contextualize this era for me. I'm going to start putting the dates right now. About a minute and change. Again, contextualize this. This is really solid, guys. I appreciate it. And you will appreciate it too. There's gonna be a lot of help, trust me. Just having that reference, knowing things to use while you're reviewing. And some of this stuff, maybe you're like, oh my God, I completely forgot what the California Gold Rush was. When you're studying today, you can look it up in your notes. You can look up the Heimler video about it. You can do all that stuff, right? You can do that for each of these sections so you're ready for whichever two they're gonna ask you. They're gonna pull 2 of these out. This is kind of like a college exam, actually. Like when I was in college, you'd walk in and your professor would give you 3 essay prompts and they'd be like, all right, write one. And that was kind of it. That's kind of how this is. Are you really over here playing Guitar Hero?
It's colonial.
I saw this earlier and I kind of let it slide. I didn't think you were actually doing it. Are you going to post this video? Yes, I will post this video. There may or may not be like 5 minutes of silence with just the screen in between. You're just gonna have to scroll past it, but I will post this video. It is recording, right? Yes, it is. Okay. Yes, I can post this video. No, guitar solo. All right, so we're at actually almost out of time. So let's see what we got. I've got a couple of good responses. People talking about colonies, new forms of governance. As the U.S. became its own nation, more people started moving in. Max, that's a good question. Could the Alien and Sedition Acts be a major event? It wouldn't be relevant to immigration as a LEQ topic, right? That would be relevant if you're, so it'd be really hard to make that relevant to immigrant. Like if I asked you a question and it was like, hey, how did immigration affect the United States? Do you see what I mean? How it's hard to tie that in because that's a US policy that affected immigrants. It's not quite immigration affecting the US. You can be careful. If you're gonna, I would say no. Because it's gonna be really hard to make that relevant to a topic. If you have to have just the right thesis. Like if your thesis has to do with nativism, right, and xenophobia and like how the US reacted to immigrants, maybe. But that's like a, you know what I mean? Like, but that's almost a different essay. Does that make sense? You have to be writing a really specific essay to make it about them. So if you decide to write that essay, right, and you know what they are, right? These, if you don't remember, right, the Alien and Sedition Acts, the Alien Act made it easy for the president to deport people, and the Sedition Acts made it illegal to talk bad about the government. That was under John Adams. John Adams was like, I'm gonna break all the constitutional rules, and then that's why no one elected him again. But if you're gonna write that essay, then you can bring up, hey, look, the Alien Acts are like the first step towards, hey, we hate immigrants, right? But just be careful and make sure that that's the essay you're writing. Otherwise, they have no mention, especially if you're going to talk about like culture and like, hey, the culture change, and like that's not quite it. That's more of a policy thing, less of a culture change. So let's see what we got here. So let's put economic and yeah, I knew that was going to make sense. I'm trying to word this as general as possible so you get the ideas that I'm trying to put forward without like giving you one, right? Because what you shouldn't do is take the contextualization here and like copy it in there, right? You're ballparking what I'm saying and using that as your contextualization. Because again, you don't know if this contextualization is going to fit the prompt they ask you. This is just the topic. I don't know what the prompt's going to be. So you got to make sure that it's in that ballpark, right? So you could talk about early colonization, right? Hey, America always seemed like that opportunity somewhere, economically, freedom inspired, which is like freedom like. As the United States became its own country, immigrants from other parts of the world started to share in the idea that the United States and its principles were, let's just put desirable, right? Because the whole point is, it's not quite the land. Like the land, like when I say the land, like opportunity for land is one thing, but it's not the area, right? What it is the promise, right? The idea, the concept of, hey, this is the slice of pie you get when you come to America, right? Economic freedom, economic opportunity, religious freedom, all that stuff. That's what draws people in. And then when you hear about, hey, there's gold in California, oh, let's go. All that stuff just fuels it, right? It's just more fuel to the fire. All right, guys. So that's pretty much what we got. If you think there's anything I missed, please let me know. A lot of you guys that gave me full contextualizations, you gave me really, really good ones. I don't quite think I saw a bad one. And again, the contextualization is not cut and paste. It is not something you can just pick randomly. It needs to be tailored around your essay. Because if your essay is about how immigrant culture changed everything from language to food to neighborhoods, then your contextualization has to fit that, right? You have to talk about language and food and neighborhoods before immigration. Does that make sense? So don't just copy and paste these. I swear, if I see somebody copied and pasted one of these in there and you have a really good essay that's say about the negatives of immigration, but you copy and pasted a really general one that's talking about why people came to America, that's not the same thing. You know what I mean? That's not the same. Make sure you're using the background info and you're contextualizing your argument. That's the whole point. Don't make sure they match. That's all I got. And if you need help on how they match, ask, and I will show you like what I mean by how they match. But make sure they match. Make sure all your parts match. So, running out of time. I know. I apologize. I wanted to get to food. I think we may or may not be able to. 2 minutes. What is sectionalism? Actually, minute and a half. You guys should know that really fast. What is sectionalism in the U.S.? What does that mean? And again, 1800 to 1861. Think about those dates. What am I talking about? What is sectionalism in the United States? Minute and a half. It shouldn't take us more than that. Put in some responses. What is it? In a nutshell, what is it? About a minute left. Sectionalism in the United States. What is it? How does it affect the United States? Actually, no, we're not there yet. What is it? What does that mean? When I say that, what do I mean? Yes, that's a really solid response. Yes. So, what is sectionalism? Desiree, that's solid. About 45 seconds. What is it? What is it? What is it? Yeah, no, that's really good. That's also very specific. So I may leave out the really specific parts, but you are not wrong. Alex, be careful because it's not just those two regions, but yes. Those are the main ones, but it can be about anything, right? It could be about states. It could be about but yes, so you're in the right track. I see most of us on the right track. About 15 seconds. Okay. So, all right, guys. So what is sectionalism, right? Well, first of all, sectionalism is splitting of one's loyalty from a nation to a specific region, right? And then examples could be north, south, west. What else would you put? We would put, where is it? Somebody put it up here. They put it perfectly. Yeah, border states is a good one. So, well, we're going to get into all the specifics right now, right? And okay, so sectionalism, right? Definition-wise, splitting of one's loyalty. I'm not an American, I'm a Texan, right? I'm not an American, I'm a Northerner. I'm a Southerner. I'm from the border states. I'm a Westerner, right? That's what it means, sectionalism, dividing into little teams and groups. North, South, West are the big ones, right? But there's also border states, Union, Confederate, border state, right? Those are all big things. More specifically, right, differentiating between lifestyles, political views, social values, moral values. Because, for example, if you're a Southerner, how do you feel about slavery? You a big fan of it? Yes. Yeah, right? You're a big fan of slavery, right? You think there's nothing wrong with it, whether you own slaves or not. Whereas if you're a Northerner, you're more likely to not be okay with slavery, right? That's just how it works. Sectionalism in a nutshell. Now, how does sectionalism affect the U.S.? Before you start putting war, yes, that's obvious. There's a war. Be sure to put that. Be sure to know that. But how else does it affect the U.S. in smaller ways? What do you see as a result? Think about those different lifestyles and political views and moral values. Get specific with it. How is that changing the United States? Right? What do you see happening in the United States because of sectionalism? So I'll give you about 2.5 for that one. That's a full one. We'll do that one. Think about little specifics. What do you see changing and happening? because of sectionalism. Two minutes on the clock. I like that last part, political tendencies, Michaela, that's pretty good. Plantation system, yes, that's a good one, it's a good term. Balance of free and slave states, that's good to point out. There's a lot of drama because of that. We're gonna put that in major events, that's a big deal. That's gonna influence a lot of policy moving forward. Right, during this era, the policy is gonna be greatly, greatly affected by the balance between slave and free states. What else do we got? About a minute left on this one. Divided. Those aren't the only issues. There's more, but those are good ones. Like, so, for example, what else do people disagree over? Slavery is good. Different lifestyles lead to the world. Okay. What else do people disagree over? And a lot of it's region-based. Think about like the overall like direction the country is going in. One, not political leaders maybe, but like one region wants the U.S. to be based on a certain type of economic principles or economic policy, and another does not. Like one side really likes tariffs, the other side doesn't. Why? Industry versus non-industry, that's solid. What else? Why does one side like tariffs and the other doesn't? Time's up. Okay. So think on that last part while we get into this. Tariffs hurt the South, but why do they hurt the South? What does the South do a lot of that the North doesn't? Remember, a tax is on a good. What type of good? And tariff is a tax on a certain type of good. A good that you do what? That you send out or that you bring in? Nope. Bring in. No, so a tariff is a tax on an imported good, right? And what do the South need to import? What do they make there only? Cotton. So what do they need to import? What do they need to import? Like everything else, right? Clothing, tools, machines. The machine they use to spin the cotton, they have to import it from somewhere else. So a tax on imported goods hurts the South, but it helps the North because the North exports everything, right? They're the ones sending stuff out. They barely import anything. Okay, so how does this affect the U.S.? Let's get into this, right? So division between states and regions significantly impacts unity, right? Let's put that, right? And when I say unity, I mean like the idea of, hey, we're a union of states, right? I cannot spell, guys. Okay, so what else do we need? What else do we see in here? So did I miss something? I know there's one in here that I missed. Where are all the social reforms happening? What part of the U.S.?
The North.
The North, right? That's where they all temperance, abolition, Transcendentalism, forgot that one. Suffrage movement, yeah, that's another one. They all form in the North. That's where they're all starting, right, Devin? Yep. All right. So now, give you a quick couple of seconds. Did I miss anything, and how does it affect the U.S.? Because I think I'm missing something, and I can't remember what it is. The tariffs and stuff, we're going to put a little later. So now, if I didn't miss anything, I'll leave that one bullet point there in case I did. I'm going to give you another 2 minutes. Shouldn't take us more than that. Major events that are impacted by sectionalism. Go. Think about elections. Think about economic plans. Think about very specific types of taxes and tariffs. Look it up if you have to. How are these things affected? Think about, hey, a state's coming in. Is it going to be a free state or safe state? Think about violence that breaks out pre-Civil War, because there's some of it, and it's impacted by sectionalism. What was that era called? My boy John Brown was there representing the abolitionists. Just realized how lame I sounded saying my boy John Brown, but you know, he's kind of my homie, so even though he's dead, super dead. About a minute and change, about a minute and a half. So again, if you find anything else to put on that second part, let me know. But now we're on major events, major issues. I remember what I was going to put for this one. That's after the war. Check out the dates, Emiliano. So we stop at 61. So don't go over 61. No, not the Louisiana. I can't give you that one. Sorry, Desiree. No, I don't think that's not quite what that's not sectionalism. That's more like acquiring land. About 20 seconds. Nothing. I got nothing from people. You guys have no major events. I even mentioned John Brown. You can't think of something he was in? Oh, there we go. Now we got some stuff. There we go. It's coming in. So major events, right? Let's talk about Fugitive Slave Act. No, all the ones you named, Janessa, are right on the money. That's right in like the meat of all this stuff. I'll give you. If you're going to talk about the Civil War, look at those dates. Do not get into like you would just say, hey, a Civil War starts, right? Because that's when it starts. Nobody mentioned an election. There was a major election that's kind of the reason the Civil War starts. Lincoln's election, right? So you'd put election of 1860. That's a major, major one. Couldn't remember the date. Yeah, 1860. Got to remember that. I'm not kidding, guys. When I say Lincoln's elected, South's like, all right, we're out. Civil War, right? That starts right after. Black codes. No, I can't give you black codes. That's more Reconstruction. So that's not quite sectionalism, even though I know where you're getting at. But even if it was, that's after the Civil War. So I can't give you those. Those are not within the dates. Remember, guys, you got to be within the dates that we're talking about. No, that's not sectionalism. Okay, so Dred Scott decision, Fugitive Slave Act, Missouri Compromise of 1850. Dred Scott, I said that twice. Civil War starts, election of 1860. We remember the tariff of 1828, the tariff of abominations? The tariff that was so mad, that was so expensive, South Carolina threatens to secede, right? But Andrew Jackson's like, nah, not over my dead body, and then he enacts the force bill. So these are some major named events, right? And then over here, I'm going to wrap all these up, right? Political and social turmoil occurred when national policy, not slighted means like insulted or hurt. A lot of you guys are putting, where was it? Like the social reforms, like Second Great Awakening or temperance or things like that. You can put those in reference to, hey, this is like a team thing, right? Those things happen in the North because the North's more okay with it. So you can put those. I'm not going to name them. I'll just name social reforms happening in different parts of the country at different times. Why does that happen? Because they're so divided. Certain reforms like abolition are never going to get to the South, right? They're just not going to get there, at least not in significant numbers. Contextualization. So if sectionalism in the mid-1800s is a period of division, right, where everybody's all divided, everybody's on their own team, they're keeping up for their side and no one else. How would you contextualize it? What's the US like before? What's the idea, the principle, the concept that unites America early on? Like, think of what's a time period when the United States are more united than they ever were. Era of good feelings, that's a really good one, right? Political unity. Even before that, though, there's another time when everybody's on the same page. We all think, hey, let's get this thing done. We're all united. We had all these different congresses going around. Everybody was on the same team. The revolution, yeah, you can use the revolution, the independence movement, right? That's a time where everybody's united, right? Join or die, right? Everybody's on the same page. We're not the southern colonies and the northern colonies and the middle colonies. We're the United States of America, right? That's a time of unity, right? So you can use that for your contextualization. Hey, there was a point where we're all really united. There's a point where we kind of get united again, era of good feelings. But now everybody's on their own team. Everybody's mad at each other, right? You could talk about it like that. Hey, it sounds like 2020. All right, so contextualization. You know what, guys? It is already 3:19. I apologize for going over time. Well, we're not over time yet, but we're definitely not going to have time to do any quick or fun review. For that, I am sorry. But let's take the last 2 minutes. Let's contextualize this. What you guys got? Tell me, how would you contextualize this era generally, right? Be as general as you can. And then I'm going to save this, make it a PDF for you guys to use and reference. Again, this is not meant to like copy and paste into your LEQ, right? But it's, and not, you can't even have this out here in your LEQ anyways, but like it's meant to be, use it with your studying, understand these regions, because I promise you, even if whichever one of these isn't on your LEQ, studying the info will help you on your MCQs, because I guarantee you they're going to be there. So keep that in mind. Before you guys go, actually, you know what? I'll fill in that contextualization for you, because I have something I want you guys to do before. So what I'm going to do, there's enough of you in here. Don't worry about contextualization. I just put a link in the chat to a Quizlet class. I need everybody to get in there and join that Quizlet class. We're going to use this starting semester 2. And there's already 100 terms for semester 1 in there. You don't have to, it's not an assignment or anything. But if you want to use them to help you, there will be things like Jay's Treaty. There will be terms in there from the very beginning, like Free Columbian Society. So what I want you to do, before you go, oops, I sent that directly to somebody. Before you leave here today, join that Quizlet class. I'm going to put it on Teams also, but I just spammed it like 900,000 times in the chat because I need you to get into that Quizlet class. It's just AP US History. It should say Cavazos as the teacher. That's all you have to do, guys. It is 3:21. Let's do the contextualization really quick. I lost where it is. Here it is. Can you guys still see that? Hopefully you can. So how would you contextualize this? You can use your student Google. You can use whichever one you have for Google Classroom. just try to make sure that you have your name in there. You know what I mean? Like, so that way I know who's who. Because we're going to use this like every week in quarter 2, where I'm going to make some changes to like assignments. And so so the key terms are more useful to you. Because I realized that I gave you key terms all year and you were tracking them. And then I wasn't giving them to you in sets to use. So we're going to use them a little better. And Quizlet's a good tool to use. I think I really like it.
Sir,
Yes.
so it's just a bunch of review and vocabulary that we're doing on Quizlet?
Well, basically, all Quizlet will be moving forward is every week, it's going to be all the key terms of the week, right? So if we have 4 lessons, it's going to be 4 sets of key terms, and it's going to be week whatever, right? And it'll be the topic. For right now, all that's on there is a big chunk of 100 terms, and it's up to you if you want to use it right now, but I would recommend looking through it a little bit leading into your semester exam, because it's all stuff from semester 1. Stuff that we probably didn't cover in review, like Jay's tree, right? Like little things like that you might just want to brush up on as a reminder. So there's games and ways you can use it if you don't want to just read them while bored. But this is the best thing I can do since we're not in person and I can't give you guys flashcards. And so I figured let's start it for Q2 and we'll use this. So all you got to do is join the class, and then I would recommend you use it. But I mean,
All right, thank you.
Yep. But all right, guys, that's all I got for you. I'm going to finish the contextualization, and then I'm going to send it up to you guys so you all have it. If you have any other questions, let me know. Isaac, I hope you did well in Guitar Hero. I don't even know if that was actually you or if that's just a video of somebody playing, but.
Not Tim. He was missing a lot.
Devin says it was you because you were missing a bunch of notes. But yeah, just make sure you guys are in the Quizlet. There's already a big 100 list term list there for you to use. And then moving forward, it'll be weekly in Q2. Have a great day, Desiree. But that's it, guys. That's all I got for you. So you guys are good to go. It is 3:24/5. Have a good one, guys. I'm going to end this to try to get the video uploaded a little sooner. Have a great day, guys.
Ugh.